see if it looks live, potentially.
Yeah, I can do that.
Let's see. Okay, it says we're live.
Yeah, there's usually a little bit of a delay.
Okay, it looks like we're good as far as I'm seeing over here. Yeah, we're live. Cool.
Great.
Okay, sick. All right, now how do I get out of this? I'm just going to give it a couple minutes, boys, just because I know there's 2 links. I added a second one, so maybe it'll populate a little bit. And then I think there is there's a live stream. There's a little chat in here. That's crazy. That's funny. Are these some of your boys, Mike? Or Michael, I should say?
Yeah, probably.
That's funny. All right. We'll get started here in like literally 2 minutes. Just give it a couple minutes, boys. Okay. Hey, Mike, I have a question about your videos you've been releasing. Are you making your? Did you make those like the little wooden carved character and the little ghost? Did you make that?
Those are 3D printed characters.
But did you, like that's you? Like you took pictures of it and you put it like in a diorama box style?
No, what I did was I printed out the figurines, and then I made that little diorama. And
That's
then
so
put
sick.
it all together in just video.
I was like watching it. And I was like, as you were talking, I was like, oh, I think he actually made this. Like, let's go.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. If I find something I like, and I'll just make something, and then I'll just create what's in my head, so that way I can get it as close to
That's impressive,
what
brother.
I see in my head than what I make.
That is impressive.
It's kind of a different. I didn't want to do AI or anything. I wanted to keep it different.
No, I like it. Looks cool. You can tell, and it like has your own style. So I think that's awesome. Okay, I think we're gonna jump into it. Why not? I'm not expecting any massive audience here, so I think we're good. We'll upload it as well. So for those of you who did come, I'm stoked you're here. Thanks for being here. I wasn't sure if this would work or not, so I'm happy it seems to be going decently smooth.
Okay. I'm getting a little bit of internet cut off once in a while. So if I don't answer or something comes up, just let me know. And
okay, yeah. And then am I good for you, Michael? Like as far as my streaming, everything's fine.
Yeah, you look fine. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so today we're going to discuss, the good old question of why we're here on Earth. What is Earth? We have 2 seasoned OBE travelers. We have Michael Lee, Mike Martin. Michael Lee believes that we are in somewhat of a school, a place of learning for the souls. We have Mike Martin, who has his own channel as well, where he believes that this is a prison planet. We are stuck here. It's a place designed to keep us trapped. So want to state this in the beginning, right? None of us can really prove technically that either of you got your bodies. So it's one of those things that we got to take for face value. However, that's the nature of this topic. So obviously I believe you both. I've had my own experiences that back this up. So it's not really for the OBE skeptics, really. It's for those who are past that, is what I would say. My job here is not to pick a side, so I'll make that clear. I'm not here to gotcha or have anything win. I think we're all here for the audience, really, right? It's to let the ideas battle and see what kind of happens. I'm going to give you both 2 to 3 minutes per answer. No interruptions, please. That would be the only thing. I'd like you both to just be able to talk. I don't see that being an issue or anything like that, but also want to take some questions from the audience. So towards the end, I'll pop out. If there's any questions, we'll read them. If not, we'll keep it pushing. But I guess we're going to start things off with, you both got 5 minutes. So 5 minutes of why you believe what you believe. And if there's an experience, specifically an OBE or anything like that, it doesn't have to be an OBE, but that backs up that theory of why you believe that. Let's hear it. So Mr. Michael Lee, we're going to start with you.
All right. So I started spiritual exploration almost 25 years ago. It began with watching a channel, sci-fi channel, where John Edward was medium and he did some pretty cool stuff. And then it led to me trying to explore on my own. what's going on. And one of the first things I picked out was the out-of-body experience, and how to have it with Robert Peterson. So I started studying that. I started having a few experiences. I then went to the bookstore and looked for different sources. And some of the earliest sources that I picked out had a positive tint to it. So this would be Robert Monroe and Michael Newton. So I read Michael Newton's books like 2 or 3 times. I just loved it. It resonated with me. But then I did read some other books, but I sort of said to myself, okay, look, you can read all the books in the world on this subject, but experience is really what's important. So what I did is I started trying to understand better about this school concept. So I went out of body. Then what I first noticed when I went out of body is that I wasn't really picking up things that were associated with a school framework. Things seemed kind of negative. There seemed to be a lot of scary entities out there. And then at some point, I wanted to try to find out more about myself. So I thought, well, I must be so advanced because I can go out of body and all this cool stuff. And, maybe I'm a blue soul. So I asked the universe, I said, what color is my soul? And it came back the color yellow. And I was very disappointed at the time. I was like, I guess I'm not an advanced soul, but supposedly I'm an intermediate soul. So then the next question came to mind is, if I'm an intermediate soul, am I a guide? So what I did is I went to the upper astral and even the lower mental plane. And I asked to see if I could see my students. And almost every time I've done this now over the last 20 years, a big group of people will suddenly appear in front of me and they'll just start asking me questions left and right and all this stuff. And I had one particular experience that was kind of funny. I said to them, it's been a while since I've seen you guys. I feel bad that I'm not, here to talk to you more. And somebody said, you shouldn't feel bad. You're here every night. So I think that, at least with my experience, I'm an intermediate guide in the school. I'm sorry, a junior guide. Let me make that clear. I am on the low end of the totem pole of the system. I care about my students. I want them to succeed. As far as I can tell, my students enjoy coming here at the soul level. I don't know, but the fact that they come to me every night tells me that it's a big struggle. It's very difficult here. They see what I've progressed and what I've done over many lifetimes, and they're very happy. And they think that, they would like to be able to achieve that too. I also see myself at some point graduating from this school. I don't really see it's becoming less and less of value to me because I've learned a lot already, but there are still things I need to work on, and I don't hide that. And one other point I want to make is that and people don't talk about this a lot, but
got about a minute, Mike.
Yeah, this is great. It's fine. It's just a very simple point. I'm able to visit my soul. Now, that sounds a bit strange, but my soul is actually an energetic world, and it's filled with every personality I've ever had as a lifetime here on Earth. So every time I come here, I build up that database, and we become more, as a group, we become stronger, more powerful. We're able to achieve things like going out of body. And I'll just make one last point, just as sort of an early concession here. In this lifetime, I've met other people that come from other systems, and by and large, they're appalled by this place. So I understand that this school may not exactly be the shiniest one in the book, but it does work, and I'm an example of that.
Love it. Thank you. All right, Mr. Mike Martin, why are we here, and why do you believe that?
I went to church, I sent to church, and was at school and around people and mostly adults. So I got to kind of really see what was going on. And I knew there was something that just wasn't right, because we're taught this, we're taught the peace and love, and then we're shown this other side. It's just, it doesn't equate. So basically, I knew something was wrong, and as a child, I was having out of body experiences, didn't know what they were. That's just kind of where it started. And they weren't very inviting. They were more on the end of just being kind of really just abductive, basically, is what they were. So I spent a lot of time just thinking as a kid, and I watch. For me, it's about experience. I got to figure out what's going on. I have a technical mind, so I have to put things together in order to make them work. So as I got older, I found out about out of body experiences about Robert Monroe. I read his book and I really liked it. And so I tried a lot of the different techniques, and I read some other books too. I ended up deciding on the technique of utilizing lucid dreaming as a gateway into the astral. For me, that worked. So that's where I went. And I wasn't far into that until I actually had my first portal experience. And then that set me on a different path. So I've been on that for about 35 years. So the big thing about it for me is that path is what sent me in a different direction. So now I'm focused on that, and I'm consciously projecting myself through that. So I'm in the physical, I'm not in the spirit body, I'm not in the soul. So it's nothing to do with the astral. I'm directly connected to the areas that I go to, which are alternate realities, or alternate from what we have here, as well as other dimensions, two-dimensional, single-dimensional, all different types of things. So I'm able to enjoy it and experience it without having to go through the process of disconnecting from the physical into the spirit body, or disconnecting from the physical into the soul. I don't have to go through that. To me, for some reason, it just seemed like a lot of work. And then the more I studied it, the more I realized that it's more mechanical than anything else. There are points of failure for it, and there's limitations to it. So I decided, going for the portals and then discovering the glimpse state, which is also using daydreams instead of dreams. I've progressed along this line, and there's no support from without. People know that we have all these problems in the world, but outside of us, there's no care for repair. And so I didn't get anything negative in that state. In the dream state, yes. Not in the other dimensions or in the alternate realities. It was all, there's no negative or positive. It's just, that's what it is. It's the present, and it is what it is. We don't have negativity and positivity until we come into the physical. Those are physical attributes. Your emotions, your feelings, your thoughts, that's all part physical. When you
have
go
about a minute, Mike.
away and you're down to your bare minimum, okay? When you go away and you're down to your bare minimum conscious energy, you don't have all that baggage. You're not a dependent. You're an independent being. I'll cut it short.
Okay. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, guys, we're going to dive right into some of the questions I have. So obviously, OBEs are private experiences, at least right now. Since you both can't prove them, what do you count as credible evidence for your claims? We'll start with you, Mike.
So, I've only been, it's funny, I love having Mike on because I feel humbled that he's been experiencing these things even longer than I have. Because of course, a lot of people are new to this area and of course look up to me, but I'm really humbled to be able to be on the same video with him. But anyways, in the 25 years of experience, the amount of proof that I even get that's personal proof is very rare. The most beautiful proof that has come to me is not from me, but it's from my friend who I taught about retrievals, and she's probably listening in. And she, out of the niceness of her heart, in 2017, both my dad and my brother passed away, and she said, "Well, I'll go visit your brother and see if I can find out some stuff about him." She wrote me this very short email. She said she thinks she met my brother. She gave him. They were out by the pool. She gave him a big hug. My brother gave her a big hug, which is what he did in life, and he said, "Tell Michael that I'm in Wonderland." And that just blew the freak out of me because Wonderland was the name I gave to a little cubbyhole in our pool when I was a little child. And that just, I don't know. It not only convinced me what I already was convinced, but it actually convinced my mom. And now she knows that there's an afterlife. So we'll just stick it at that.
That's awesome. All right, Mr. Mike Martin.
For me, can't prove anything of this nature. It's like you're trying to find physical proof of a non-physical experience. Doesn't happen. I mean, if nobody in the world dreamed except for me, and I'm trying to prove to you that I'm dreaming, you would have no concept of it. It's kind of the same thing. So what I tell people is, I'm not here to prove anything to you. I'm here to offer tools that I utilized and I used to get me to find the truth that I have found. So it's up to everyone to find out their own truth, because I can't prove an experience to you. You have to experience things for yourself in order for you to understand. That's the only way. I mean, if I had all the answers to all the questions, I could tell everybody all the answers, but it wouldn't mean anything to them, because they have to have the experience to really know that's what it is. And even with experiences, you still have to question them, because if you have one out of body experience and you base your whole understanding on that, then you're making a mistake. You have to go back and over and over. It's like if you wanted to become a bricklayer and you go to work the first day or the first week and you say, "Oh, I know everything about it." No, you need the practice, you need the experience, you need to go through that process in order to become successful and understand it.
Mr. Michael Lee, how would you know if, let's just call it the being, how do you know it was actually who they say they were? Like, couldn't it be, I don't know, another being masking as this person and knowing like your life and being that on the other side, everything is infinite and there's knowledge, there's all these, time is not a thing. It could go forwards and backwards. It could just tell you something that you'd be like, oh shit, that's definitely them. Because I've thought about that often, right? Like if it is if we're trapped here, it makes a lot of sense to me that they would pose as people that we love and care about and offer a couple bones, and we would all be like, oh yeah. Like I took that. I'm not gonna lie, my first medium session, I was told a couple of things. I was like, damn, that was definitely my grandpa. Just curious how you rationale that.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's definitely a debate that I have with Claudio a lot. Tell me to plug his website, thenonphysical.com. But I'm constantly having debates with him, especially about the reality of my experiences and whether or not I can trust that the entities that I'm talking to are actually real beings. Frankly, I don't know how you could prove anything, but what's interesting is that all the beings that are within my soul seem to act like beings, right? But they're actually just parts of who I was in a previous time. So in some ways, they are sort of like animated AI. So one could make the argument that there is a sort of that our lifetimes, and like my brother's lifetime, is stored in a file and can be animated like a language model or something and be activated. But it's Tom. I haven't read fully Tom Campbell, but he actually has similar views that there's sort of this storage complex of personalities, and that when we meet people on the other side, we're not meeting them, we're meeting the, you know, the file copy of the person. I would say though that, you know, our consciousnesses are real, our souls are real. Our consciousnesses all derive from a single consciousness. So in some ways, it's just God talking to itself, and playing games with itself. So maybe the question is how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go as to what is real and what isn't? I do, though, have one philosophy, which is I try to treat people in my experiences as real. Because if you just assume that, oh, they're not real, big deal, then you can harm people. And as you recall from our interview before, you know, I do a lot of retrievals. I try to treat them, you know, with the same respect that I would treat a human being. And they seem to, at least while in an astral, have a lot of emotion. And so I assume that they're real, and I do that out of respect for the possibility that they are real.
Love it. Okay, Mr. Mike Martin, why do we forget? Why is our memory wiped at the very beginning every single time we're born?
Memory wipe. Well, I can't answer that question for a fact because I haven't followed up on that or I haven't witnessed it. But my understanding would be, or my belief would be, the reason why we are memory wiped every time is because, well, if you remembered something from your last life that would put you closer to getting yourself out of the system, they don't want to do that. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things have changes every time we're reborn. So the last thing you want to do is to let somebody have past understandings and bring it forward. You got to start over fresh every time because you'll remember different civilizations, different technologies, different learning processes, and that sort of thing. That's what that's based upon. I mean, that's kind of common understanding. And the whole reincarnation process is just going to start you right back over. It's just like, okay, the game ends. Once we start it over, then you're just going to come back here and come back and do the same thing or do whatever you're going to do with no better understanding than you had the last time you started. So, and if you do progress pretty well, then they want to make sure the slate's erased to bring you back again. I mean, if somebody's going to keep you in the game, the first thing they want to do is keep you, first of all, dumb. The second of all is manipulated, because if they can manipulate you and think you really need to be here, then of course you're going to buy into it and you're gonna help. You know, I mean, Stockholm syndrome, and a lot of people really do. You know, no matter how bad things are, and they see it and experience, they still want to believe that you know it's all for the good. I went through the process. The reason why I understand how other people feel is because I was there too. It's not like I was fully sold on this my whole entire life. I went through all the stages, denial and everything else. It wasn't like I just came about. Even though you have a clue of something's going on, you still want to accept that comfortable area, that comfortable understanding. Everybody does. And I understand that it's hard to break.
I guess my question to that would be why let us talk about it, right? And I've heard the response that, you know, we're insignificant, but if they're these all powerful, and I say all powerful because clearly they created a simulation or this planet that is quite convincing, right? And interactive and all these other, but why not patch it? Like why let us talk, especially in the age of internet where one podcast could reach millions of people potentially. Like it just seems like something that they would shut down rather quickly.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
let me give you an example. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Is it him or me or both of us or what?
I'll have Mike Martin, you go first, and then Mike, I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Okay. What happens is, so if an event occurs and people experience it, followed by that event, if people start talking about it and you feel that they're going in the direction they're going to figure it out, the first thing you do is you release 1,000 different stories related to that. So what you do is you figure, okay, well, if you're going to get closer to the real answer, we will manipulate and deceive you by releasing all these eyewitness accounts, or all these people will just jump out of everywhere. And where you only had 10 people going after the truth, now you have 1,000,000 people going after 500 truths. So it's so easy with media and word of mouth to change the whole path of where you're going. So even if you are speaking truth and you're getting there, people will start to branch off. Well, I believe this person more because I've read their books, or I believe this guy because I really like this newscaster, or this person seems to be honest, so I'm going to believe them. And that's what ends up happening. There's a moral majority of belief in just about everything, and most people gravitate to that because it's widely accepted. They don't want to be the outcast. They don't want to be someone who thinks differently because they won't fit in. People want to fit in and be accepted.
Mr. Michael Lee?
Yeah, so, I think that the two questions of mind wipe, and, so, we do have a mind wipe, for the most part, but it's interesting because every time that we incarnate down here, it's not actually like our whole soul incarnating. It's almost like a probe comes down here. So it's not our full self. It's kind of got like a freshness to it, like it's sort of like a mixture of who we were from many different lives that come in here, and we kind of come in as a tabula rasa of sorts. I think that it is a problem that we don't have a good memory of the process. That is 100% something that I'm against, and I've been actually. I mean, I don't really have time here to describe it, but it's something I've been working to fix. But I don't think while we may lose our identity, we don't necessarily lose all of our skills. In my case, I was able to lucid dream even as a small child. I had naturally good math skills. I've always been a fairly decent personality, although about 10 years ago, I started to get angry. Um, so I think that while there is an identity wipe, I think each time we come here, we build on what we had from previous lifetimes, and our team grows in strength and numbers. And it's really interesting because when you seek out your guides, it's not, for me, it's actually not my soul guide that comes in and greets me. It's actually my other past lives. So it seems that as my team is building, we are getting more powerful. Now, does that power mean that at some point, like what Mike is saying, we will figure out a way to get the heck out of here? I think that we're kind of in this weird state where, yeah, we may be able to figure a way to get out of here, but we also may just graduate anyway. My guide, I don't even know if she comes here anymore. And what's interesting too, and this relates a little bit what Mike said, is that what I believe to be my soulmate, and this is really maybe more mythology than anything else, that I've kind of fallen behind a lot of my soul group, and they're more advanced than I am in a lot of ways because of certain things I did in certain lifetimes. But I see my soulmate living in India. I mean, this is all mythology, and she's just here because she loves helping people. And what Michael Newton talks about is this idea that when you're near graduation, you almost don't want to leave. And maybe that's a trick in itself, but you start to feel compassion for all the suffering that's going on here.
Tough questions, tough questions. Mr. Mike Martin, I got one for you. If it turns out that your theory is false, and I know it's not your theory, it's decently popular. What's the most harmful effect it could have on someone who believed it?
more times that I've been right in the past, not about this generally. But what you have to do is, what I had to do is, I took all those, my documentation and all my experiences, and I sat down. This was about 6 months. I did nothing but go over everything and try to come up with a whole idea of really what I'm going to base my understandings on. And that was the toughest 6 months of my life, because when you get into a position where you're constantly questioning yourself, you're questioning every move, you're questioning every experience, you're questioning everything. You can almost at that point drive yourself crazy, because it never ends. It's like, it just, once it starts to snowball, the snowball just gets so large. So I took a break, a couple weeks, and sat back down again. And I already had a good understanding of the way that I felt, but there were some things that had to change in my foundational beliefs in order for me to take a lot of these things that I believed that weren't true. I had to move them to the side so that I can put a foundational understanding from experience and put that in place of that. Because I still had a lot of old baggage from things that I wanted to believe versus what I actually have experienced. So I decided to do, I made my decision. I said, okay, I'm not going to keep questioning everything I do. I'm going to make, uh, this is my foundation right here. I'm going to build upon it. And when I first started, I told people, don't rely on me, rely on yourself. You can take pieces of information that you have not experienced from other people and use that within your scope, but always question everything. So don't base your understandings on my experiences or my beliefs. But what I'm going to do is, I'm going to offer tools that I used myself in order to hopefully help you get somewhere down the path, or hopefully help you along your way. I didn't have anything. I had a couple books that I read, but a lot of times, even in books, you'll find there's just misinformation, because it's 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 made to sell. And if you don't have enough fluff in there to make it exciting or ooh and ah, then you might not sell your book. So a lot of people have integrated that into there in order to make it interesting enough to be a potential bestseller. So the whole foundational beliefs and everything is up to you. Everything is up to you. No matter what I say, no matter what anybody else says, you have to do it yourself in order to really believe anything. So use what I can for all it's worth, what I offer for all it's worth, and then use that as a springboard to find out the real truth.
When you both have met beings, correct, on the other side? And so, M
Yes.
Mike Martin, are you actively like, other than questioning everything, like you meet a being and you hear them out, are they more positive? Like, are you finding that they're more happy and you're just not believing them? Or are they telling you like, "Yep, you are in a prison, you figured it out, good on you, but you're still stuck here." Like, what is your experience like knowing what you know, especially since the other side seems to react off of how you think, right? And they can read your thoughts. And so are you getting any kind of pushback or acknowledgement of your theory?
The dream state has been the only place, while I'm lucid dreaming, is the only place where I've gotten any negativity. Beyond that, in the different dimensions and alternate realities, no. It's it's even kill. So basically what it is, it's, there's no positive and there's no negative in there. It's just right down the center. So what they'll do is, let me give you a direct example, and this was told to me several times. Hey, we realize you're utilizing portals, so we can show you how to keep them open. Now, for me, I'm red flag number one. Okay, during that experience, red flag number one tells me that, okay, well, if I can open them, why can't you? And I also know that in order to hold the portals open, it requires energy from me as well. So what are you going to do? Deplete all my energy? And why would you be utilizing my gateway? There's something far beyond. So there's things that you will experience just like that. It will be just in general conversation, but you're aware of what's going on. It's called manipulation. And it happens on many levels. Somebody can be very nice to you and manipulate you into doing things that you would think, oh, that's okay. I don't know any better, or I'm not really going to think about it because it's a cool being from another place. So they all have to be really, really trusting. Well, my thoughts on that is every being everywhere, whether it's on Earth or not, has their own agenda, and there's no way of knowing what that agenda is. Never. You'll never know that. Even in people in your own family, if they make a decision or have you do something, you don't know what's behind it. And if they don't want to tell you either, you may never know. So that's what it's all based upon. You have to read between the lines. You have to dig deeper and look at your experiences. Why would somebody say that to me? Why would the conversation go that way? One of them is put you at ease. The way that they present themselves, they can change their image, and they can also change the landscape. So if I wanted to manipulate a being, I could invite him over to this Hollywood set, and I'm this billionaire in this large mansion with all these cool cars. And he's like, yeah, I just met this billionaire. This guy's a lot of money. He's got a lot of pull in the, he could probably do anything in that world. This guy is amazing. When he goes back and tells whatever there, well, it's just a facade. And that's what most of it is. It's because they know more about you than what you know, because they can read you. There's an energy field around us, and it's all being basically
20 more
recorded in a
seconds,
theoretical database. They have access to it. Okay, they have access to the theoretical database. They know more about you than you know. So when you get there, there's no question. But you don't know anything about them.
Mr. Michael Lee, on your end, you have a unique spot because you are doing retrievals, and I found that fascinating. First read about it. No, actually, I read about it after I met you. So you gave me some books. I've been reading them.
Yeah.
I guess the question would be the one I thought of first was, if we're here to learn, and then you passed away in an unexpected way, like a lot of examples in Bruce Moen's books are like, I don't know, they're like in the army or something, right? And they got sniped by someone, so they didn't expect
Right.
it, they weren't aware, which is
Yeah.
why on the other side they're like still in limbo, like they think they're still there, they think things are still going on. If it was just to learn, don't you think it would be like pretty instant, like, oh wow, like, all right, well, I must have died. Like, why have that limbo effect? And also I've thought about, like in the example, a lot of kids are often brought up, like kids who pass away and they're stuck and they're waiting for their parent, and they don't want anyone to, like, that whole don't talk to strangers things. Like there's an example in Bruce Moen's book where this little kid is like, anytime a being tries to approach him and take him to Focus 27, right, or wherever you go after, it freaks out, and everyone's like, okay, because the kid's like, no, I don't want to go anywhere without my mom or my dad. Why wouldn't the mom or dad just go get him? You know what I mean? Like, why does it take you to go do that?
Well, a lot of times I actually mentioned this to somebody recently, that in our lifetime, even if we're not spiritual people or anything, we typically do we typically do a few retrievals in our dreams, and typically it's people in your soul group, so you may or may not recognize them, or they're people that are family members. But why does this happen to begin with? It's I don't know. I think there's a lot of interesting questions, like why am I needed versus helpers in spirit directly? And what I found, and I've probably mentioned this to you, is that the two or three lowest levels of the astral plane seem to be almost, but not completely, inaccessible to people that are on the mental plane. So, in the mental plane being right above the astral plane. And so it is a bit strange that the bungee cord, which I've actually experienced because I got to do retrievals starting from the mental plane going down. It's like the bungee cord just doesn't take you all the way down, or at least for people that are in spirit, their light just dims so much. It doesn't seem right. And it sounds, honestly, the image that comes in my mind is that this system is not, it's got some glitches in it. But I think the distinction that I like to make with people is that, you know, I, I and as far as I know, my guide and whatnot, you know, our intention is to is is to work with souls that want to grow and evolve. And I think the challenges, and even for somebody like me, is now that I'm aware that there are other systems that souls can evolve and grow in, why this one? Why are we using this one that has has that separation? And so I think that's a big challenge. And and it's funny because I can relate to Mike because I've met people recently that would sort of agree that there is this neutral state that souls can be in. I would also argue that Mike probably had some training in some system. Like he's not just some random guy off the street. I mean, advanced and evolved through some sort of potentially physical system, but it may not have been nearly as as glitchy as this one. Then he comes here and he's like, wow, you guys got a lot of work to do. And I think, his ability to make portals tells me that, at least for himself, I don't see him being trapped here. I think there's one caveat that I want to mention for people that are interested in trying to escape or leave is that the energy that you have on you when you die may not be your full soul. It may just be sort of like this, like I said, this probe, this offshoot. And so you kind of don't want to, if you come from another system and it's just your probe here and you take it with you, that's fine. But if somebody like me who's been living in this earth school now since I was a little soul, it would make no sense for me, Michael, to just go off into the wilderness because I would be basically leaving behind my entire energy complex that I've created and my energy that's associated with it. And that gets to another point, which is I don't think all souls experience this earth the same way. I think for some souls, they experience this earth through a headset. I think for souls like me, it's through some sort of thing where my soul rests within the soul plane of this earth realm and then sends a probe down. And for people like Mike, it could be the headset, it could be just him as a single probe, but his actual soul is in a completely different universe. And so it's hard to generalize that everybody here on this earth is experiencing this place for the same reason. And there may not, and Mike may have a guide that's like, get the heck out of here. Whereas I think and me as a guide, and certainly my students, the impression is, hey, this is our home. This is where we don't, this is where you learned, Mike. This is where we want to learn. It's fun, exciting. Let's do it. Let's grow. Let's, become, knowledgeable souls. And another point that Mike made, I think is really fascinating, is that I 100% agree with him that, in this outside the earth realm, we're very sort of, there's not good or evil, but there's also not a lot of emotion. I feel like being here like grows us in a weird way. It expands our emotional palette, expands our empathy, perhaps, because when we see suffering, we don't want it to happen. So there is a positive thing that comes out of this experience. And I also don't think that I'm trapped here. I think and if we look at what Robert Monroe talks about, he basically started as a baby soul. He grew up mostly in this system. And then he said, he's pretty much ready to graduate. Now, what's kind of funny is, well, did he actually graduate? How do we know that? We didn't see it from his books. Well, it turns out when I first started going out of body, one of the people that showed up for me was Robert Monroe. And he showed up for about a year, a few times. And he actually gave me some really cool lessons, which I don't necessarily have time here to talk about. But then at one point he said, Mike, I'm leaving. And so anyways.
It's interesting with both of you. I wonder how you both feel about each other as far as like Mike Martin. Do you view people who don't see life as a prison yet as young souls? Meaning like they just haven't come to that yet. Like they're still in the like happy period. It's going to take a couple more reincarnations before they go like, wait a minute, something's off? Or vice versa, Michael Lee, do you feel like Mike Martin is like, well, that seems like that's something you do when you're a younger soul, and all I mean by that is just you haven't had enough reincarnations, because I wonder what the benefit would be, Mike Martin, to have your belief system. Um, I can see the benefit in believing that life is a school of some sort. I wonder, on the other hand, yours, like if it is true that it's a school, what did your guides tell you? And did you just decide, fuck the plan? I'm gonna do my own thing? Or, it's an interesting, I'm curious how you view that. Oh, sorry. You were muted, Mike.
I guess it's me. Okay. Um, what I would what the way I looked at it is, I used to be all up for the school thought. I was sold on it. I figured we're here to learn. Maybe you just got to go through it. But then I started thinking, based upon what I was experiencing in the dream state, what I was experiencing outside, far outside of the astral, and then what I was experiencing in the physical. Now, how many times you or somebody you love have to die of cancer or have to suffer? Or how many times do you have to go through this process of suffering? Now, if you weigh everything in life, there's more suffering than there is enjoyment. If you can pick the happiest parts of your life, and they're going to be so far fewer than the struggling, the suffering, the surviving. Okay. I have not met anybody that's got this joyous, happy life that things don't generally just go wrong all the time. That's just how life. I grew up in a middle class working family, and anything that we got was we had to work for hard, and it was never an easy chore to get to that point. So I understand. And I also know people that are on the better end of the spectrum, but you could be the most richest person in the world, but that doesn't mean you just still don't have some level of suffering. It's just that you're higher in the richest part, the wealth part, but that doesn't make your life any easier. You still have to deal with the situation. So I'm trying to remember what the rest of your question was, but there's a couple things that I wanted to just address, just kind of doing with the astral. I think it's a very popular belief. They go, oh, the lower astral levels are the problem. That's where all the lower entities. Well, from the beginning, and I learned this from the very beginning, because the lower levels are the levels of your disconnection from the body. It's a simple process. So maybe your spirit rises above the physical body within a certain distance, level 1, level 2. By the time I think you get to level 5, your spirit, and with you inside of it, is upright. And then from then the levels change a little bit, but that's the whole purpose. Whether you're flying or whatever, there's a level designated to that. So when people say, oh, all these demons are in the lower level, it's not even a level. All it is it's basically your ability to move through these. So for instance, my first experience was, I was upright. So I probably started out at level 7. I bypassed it because I'm not using the separation technique where I have to go through all these different levels to get to where I was. I was completely upright in the air. So I was already at a higher level because I used lucid dreaming as a gateway to get in there. So those lower levels are nothing but a procedure. Then once you get above that, there's a little bit of difference, but that's the whole thing. People are just getting sold on that. I mean, there's beings all over the astral. So first of all, they're not going to hurt you because your energy without matter. Here we're energy with matter. The soul is energy with matter. That's how you can potentially die. If the soul gets injured, you can die there, but not on the astral. Mental planes, different story. Just like the physical, you can be killed. So there's a whole lot of interference when it comes down to it. Like I said, if you have the truth and somebody wants to change the narrative, the first thing they do is they put out a bunch of misinformation, get everybody to believe it because everybody's speaking it, and then all of a sudden it gets accepted, and And with Robert Monroe, I just wanted to say, first book, great. After that, his books just flew off the on the left side, whatever. I didn't even make it. You started using him.
Mike's cutting out a little bit for me. Is he cutting out for you, Mike? Luckily. Okay, I'm gonna pause him really quick. That was funny. Yeah, that's okay. He's totally frozen. I can't even mute him over there. Hopefully he pops back. Mr. Michael Lee. I mean, I'm gonna wait here. Hopefully Mike gets back here, but I'm curious if you have a question for Mike. Because I want to open that up next for you both to ask each other one question if he comes back. Hopefully he does. He's still frozen over here.
Yeah, I mean, my question is, given his ability, and I hope he can hear this, but you can also repeat it, given his ability to open portals and potentially get back to kind of his source self, what has been his experiences interacting with the other parts of himself? And is it hard to fathom, because, if you're coming from a different universe, it's like, but I'm just curious if he's really looked into his identity and who he is, because he does seem like a really interesting person.
Mike, can you hear us now? Mike Martin?
Yeah. Where did I cut out at?
You cut out quite a while ago, but did you hear Michael Lee's question?
No.
I want to try and ask it one more time. Michael Lee.
Yeah, since you're able to create portals, Mike, have you been able to learn more about who you are, in terms of your greater soul complex and your origin and maybe home planet, that kind of thing? Because I think I'm so fascinated when I meet people that don't seem like they're from the system, because creating a portal is a pretty advanced technology. I know a few people that can do it, but it's pretty rare.
Oh, is it for me?
I can hear you a little bit, Mike, but you're kind of going in and out.
Okay, where are we at now? What's the question? So I can. Was it responding to Mike Lee's comment?
No, he was asking, like, have you looked into? He's very interested in, I guess, people who seem like they're not from the system, because being able to open portals is pretty advanced from what he's been accustomed to or been around. And he was curious if you've looked into yourself, like your home planet or other variations of yourself. Michael Lee, if I messed it up, you can hop in, but I think that was the question.
First of all, I wouldn't really know how to do that. Second of all, for me, it's all about determining what's going on here. I mean, could I maybe develop a portal and get out myself? Anything's possible. But the problem is I'm not here to just get myself out. I'm here to get anybody else out who wants to go out. Show them how to take down the system so that we can all get out. I mean, make it available for everybody. Maybe somebody doesn't really want to get out and they decide when it's time to go, whatever. But my whole premise is to try to get a way for all of us to get out at one time. Because if you create a portal and you get out, then nobody else is going to follow you because the doorway is closed. But if you take down the system, and then everybody is free to do what they choose to do, whether they want to stay here or want to leave. So for me, it's all about trying to think globally rather than just on an individual basis.
What is your question, Mike Martin, to Mr. Michael Lee, as far as his beliefs? I'll give you that opportunity as well.
I would just, I would tell them just to go and do your thing. I mean, I'm not, I don't judge people by their beliefs. If they want to believe a certain way, because I was in the same place before, that's more power
But if you wanted
to you,
him, like, if
because
you want to
everybody's going to
get
have their own perspective. You can't change somebody's perspective. That's a lie.
For sure, but I guess I would say if you are wanting to get more people out and more people are believing Michael Lee's theory that this is a school, what would you say to them to question that belief?
There's 8 billion people on the planet. If I had 8 billion people listening to me right now, the same amount of people are probably going to react to it. You're probably going to get 2% of 2% of 2% of 2% until you're down to maybe a few thousand people if you're lucky. You can tell people all day long something, but they're not going to believe it until it's either their time to believe it or they've been through situations that put them in the process of having to rethink what's going on around them. So no matter what I say, it's not going to change anybody's mind. I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm here to offer tools to people that have decided they want to do something about it. Other than that, I can't do anything.
All right, y'all. I'm actually going to open this up. If there are any questions in the chat, maybe now's the time to slap some in. If you guys have heard them both talk, you have a question you want to ask, I'm going to give this a minute or so. If there's no other questions, I think we're gonna wrap this one up. I just think it was a good go for the first time around, but give everyone a minute to ask some questions.
I want to say I apologize for the internet. We've got some digging going down our road, and I think it's affecting our cables.
No, you're good. No worries at all. I can't see the YouTube chat. I think it's here, right? Like this live stream chat. I don't see any questions. So I think we're okay on that bit. Okay, we have our boy Claudio. He says he has a question for Mike Martin. Why does he believe we are trapped? So why do you believe we are trapped? If it's not the being saying it, why do you believe this?
Well, none of the beings ever said that. None of the beings ever even alluded to it. It's the fact that, okay, I've heard people say that if we really want out, we can get out, because if it wasn't a trap, if it wasn't a prison, then we could just leave at any time. I mean, if it was a school, okay, cool. If people want to come here and learn, I'm all for that, man. That's great. But I know that I've studied how the system works. And even in the dream state, the better I get at becoming lucid, the more resistance I experience. The same thing with the portals. The longer I do it, the more resistance I encounter. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, if I'm going out and I'm going beyond, and there's no interest to want to discuss anything related to this, and if I'm going within and trying harder, and yet I'm reading resistance, it means there's something hidden. There's something hidden behind the manipulation, and behind, why would you need to manipulate people that are here because they want to?
Okay, so I think Mike is going out. I'm going to ask you one last to wrap this up, Mr. Michael Lee. And there was a question. What is it? Let's see. For Michael Lee, what do you recommend for those who want to learn more about their identity?
That's a fantastic question. And I thought about that, something to tell people. So, we do have this mind wipe. And when we born into this world, unless you're somebody like Christian Sundberg or Mike here, you're like, who the hell am I? But it turns out in this day and age, we have what's called past life hypnosis, or life between lives hypnosis. There are two schools that train therapists in this. There's Michael Newton's school called Life Between Lives, and the other school was started by Dolores Cannon. There's also an offshoot of Dolores Cannon's thing where they kind of switch around things a little bit. Those three groups of therapists is a very good idea. And they're a little bit expensive. One alternative, if you have a willing partner, is if the third book by Michael Newton actually has the entire script that a therapist uses to do past life hypnosis. And then they can, and so if they have a trusted partner, they can go through that script and see what they pick up. Like I mentioned before, probably on your interview, I'm confusing it with another interview I had a few days later. Try to learn how to do what Mike and I do. Try to learn how to lucid dream, go out of body, develop your psychic senses. Just be aware that when you do go out of body, you're generally in lower energy states. And if you lucid dream, you're usually in like a middle astral state, and that you're not going to get a lot of clear answers unless you actually push yourself into what I call the mental plane, which is, and that can take a little bit of work. But if you reach the level where you're starting to lucid dream and you're starting to go out of body, just reach out to me and I'll try to give you some guideposts of how to get to the higher vibrational planes where you can start to get some answers.
Hell yeah. All right, gentlemen. That's going to be it for the first ever debate over here. Thank you both, Michael Lee, Mike Martin. I appreciate you both being here. You guys are both awesome. It wasn't about proving anyone right or wrong. I think it's just really important we all get on, I don't know, a call and talk about these things because they're big, right? These are big ideas we're discussing. They're not easy to digest, especially this prison planet theory. So appreciate you both for being here. Thanks everyone for watching. I'll upload this and maybe tomorrow, something like that. But if people like it, if there's comments, let us know. Like that's the best way for me to know if you guys like it and you want more. I'll try to schedule some more and we'll keep this thing going. Otherwise, till next time, y'all. Appreciate you guys. Bye, everyone.